we want to use social media for good. There's a lot of good that can come out of this communication revolution that we have in the world today, for a lot of very, very good things. And we want, as much as possible as a government, that these platforms and these media should be used for good. And I think that part of the conversations with them will be really towards how to get them really as forces for good, global good. Conditions, the basic condition is really responsible communication. You know, we know the power of words, you know, and power of words for good and power of words for bad. And we really, our condition is really that these, you know, when you have that kind of power to manage and facilitate the communication of billions of people around the world, it has to come with responsibilities. Absolutely has to come with responsibilities. And so we want to, if the conditions would be responsible use of media.
But we remain firm in our position that free access to the ability to express oneself is actually very important, and perhaps even more important in troubled times. And so we're glad to hear that they're interacting with Twitter. I will share with you on the question of judicial processes. I will share with you that topic, the topic of the judiciary and judicial processes in Nigeria, came up. And you know, many of the things that His Excellency the Minister is referring to, such as inciting or committing violence, are crimes, and which the government of Nigeria has a legitimate interest in identifying and prosecuting those who commit such crimes, and that we think that we encourage that to use judicial processes within the scope of respect for human rights and the rule of law to constrain that sort of behavior. I think we have to be very clear that we are Nigeria's strong partners on issues of security, and we recognize the daunting times and the array of security challenges that confront Nigeria.
All right, so there you go. We're going to go ahead now. We're joined by Mrs. Florence Ezenwa, who is the CEO of Ocean Serve and also a retired director with the Ministry of Transport. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program. Okay, I guess we'll take a little time and sort that out, and we'll be back with you. All right, welcome back. Well, don't forget, you can send us your response or what you make of all of this that is going on. We'll have our email account, sunrisedaily@channelstv.com. You are always welcome to do that anytime, even at the dead of the night, actually.
Oh, yeah, we actually got some mails at unusual times.
Yeah. And we will read as much as we can, yeah. So now we can bring in Mrs. Florence Ezenwa, who is the CEO of LILUC and retired director with the Ministry of Transport. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Good morning.
Well, a lot is happening, well, sometimes quick and fast, and several meetings have happened, and perhaps there will be a lot. But in the dailies yesterday, there were lots of responses and reports about how much this is costing the country, this suspension, as it were. So give us your impression of what you make of all of this, particularly about this suspension of Twitter in Nigeria.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. A lot has really, like you said, happened in the past few months in the life of this nation. But it seems that the action of the past 1 week has really snowballed into some kind of mass agitation and unrest, because largely the social media is what our new generation and the business community knows. And when you talk about banning it, it's like you're shutting down Nigeria from the rest of the world. So I think it's part of a human right to have a freedom of expression. So I think it needs to be properly managed.
When you say it needs to be properly managed, what do you have in mind in terms of what needs to be done and by who?
I think by all the stakeholders, by government, by the citizens themselves, by the social media handlers, by everyone, because I think it's the manner of approach and the use of language and insensitivity. It's a lot of things, actually.
Do you share the view of some of those who think that they feel alienated from, just as you say, they seem to have shut off the young generation from certain things going on in this country? Some have expanded on that school of thought, thinking, well, it appears as though it's us and them. They seem not to, perhaps, those up there don't have an understanding of how to get across with the rest of the country, and as such, this is what you see going on.
It's not so much about us and them. It's so much about how we treat one another, especially through the social media. Social media is good, social media is bad. So we really need to manage it. The people in the press, broadcasts, commission, Ministry of Information, government, everyone needs to know how to use the social media. You can use it to destroy, you can use it to build. I think we really need to manage it. Take the good and drop the bad, yes? That's what I think.
But one of the things that comes to mind in all of this, as you have said, social media is pretty much like everything we use. It can be used for good and it can be used for bad. Unfortunately, what we are talking about here is pretty much communication in summary. And you have also talked about the process of communicating with each other. Now, clearly, as you said earlier, there is that disconnect between the young population and a good number of people who are in leadership. That understanding seems to be lacking. How do you suggest we begin to approach that? Because clearly there are historical antecedents that we do not want to go back to. But the way things are now, if someone feels alienated, it's only natural for the person to react and want to do something about it. So how do you suggest we begin to engage with these people that you say are alienated so that we do not repeat, history that we don't want?
Thank you very much. I've always believed that this Nigeria is very much an adult society. We really do not respect the youthful population of this country. We do not care what happens to them. We don't even engage them. So how do you engage them? You catch them young. People are busy pursuing their daily bread. They don't even have time to attend to the needs of the family, the children, the youths. We don't even have parks anymore. Everywhere is built up. youth centers are no more. They don't even have a place to air their views. So you find that with the advent of social media, this is all they know. They don't even, some don't even go out. They are stuck on their phones. So our culture demands that one person cannot really raise a child or, a community. We have to mix some of our cultural values with the modern advent of communication. We really neglected the youths, and that's why we're having this now. I think we should go back to the drawing board, because I grew up in a place where and when it was valued to be in a family where you are loved, where schools are, where people are really raised. Missionaries are there to support us. How many of those institutions do we have now? We've abandoned a lot of things. It's what we did in the past that is haunting us now. But I think there is hope if we can retrace our steps and try to make amends and try to listen more to the youthful population of this country. We're not listening to them.
Are there things that you think the young population today can learn from the young population of the 60s? Don't also forget that it was in that time that Nigeria went into a kind of upheaval that we don't want repeated. The Civil War, for instance. And many of the people who were in government at the time were young people in their 20s, in their 30s, and all of that. So are there things that you think the youth ought to be aware of now so that we do not go back to that time?
Oh, there are so many things. The youth of today, they're too much in a hurry. I grew up in the 60s, and I suffered in that growing up era because there was a lot of upheaval at the time I was growing up. The sense of entitlement the youths have now, we didn't have it then. We had to work for everything we had. When I lost my father, I had to pay my way through school. I had to become old young. I had to be looking after a family of 7 because I lost my father immediately after the Civil War. At 46, I lost my father, and I became the breadwinner. How many youths are breadwinners now? So, but at that time also, there were opportunities. There were town hall meetings, village meetings, missionaries were there. The missionaries really did a lot for this country. I'm a Catholic, and they did a lot for this country, especially for the youths. They gave us a lot of hope. But what do we have now? We have a lot of youths running to the churches where they are given hope.
Okay. Well,
oh yes. I mean, I just try to situate myself in that period you're talking about, and you mentioned that a lot of young people these days are too much in a hurry. You talked about the sense of self or of entitlement, as it were, saying, I mean, I deserve this. You need to give this to me, as opposed to then when you had to, work for things. I mean, you have young people also working for things these days. Some of them, not all young people are in a hurry, but you also said we need to retrace our steps. And I think it's in line with just what you were saying. To what point do we need to retrace those steps? Is it to pre-Civil War or when exactly? Where did we miss it, as it were?
We have to take a bit of pre-Civil War. we have to take a bit of post-Civil War. We have to take a bit of now. This is more of a now generation. We were the then generation. The now generation largely are so impatient. And it is also largely because most of us parents don't even have time to attend to our family issues. The desperation to create wealth, to lift yourself out of poverty, has really caused a lot of havoc in value system in Nigeria. So I think we should pick a bit of pre-Civil War, post, and now we should reimagine a new Nigeria where there is inclusivity, because inclusivity is the name of the game all over the world.
You know, I sort of like the sound of that. Pre-Civil War, post-Civil War, and now. Sort of like a custom or hybrid kind of arrangement. But Mokwe has a question, or a few questions. Mokwe.
So, Mom, I don't have, I really at a loss as to where to start, you know, with the questions, because I'm really trying to, you know, go through your mind as to, you know, the phases of life you have had, growing up, maturity, where you currently are right now. And I don't know if you have, I mean, the activities or the events in the last few years have brought back memories for you. Because for you to decide that you would like to, you know, speak on these matters on national TV, you must feel really heavy in heart. Maybe, you know, scenes that play themselves in your growing up years are beginning to come up again. I don't know what it is that has sparked in you this urge to want to speak, but do you think that, are there things that you're currently seeing right now which for you spell danger, you know, preceding what Nigeria faced in the late 60s? Are you seeing them again in 2021?
Thank you very much for this very important question. I chose to come here on this invitation because of the passion I have for this nation to be one. And because of the experiences I had during the Civil War. My father, when he was alive, used to tell us, because he experienced the Second World War, he said, he's always saying, Warsaw saw war and was no more. So, we cannot afford to experience a second civil war. I am 70 years old now, and I'm seeing and hearing those drum beats I heard 50 years ago that threw this nation into a deadly civil war. And immediately after that war also, I left this country to go to Canada. And I happened to be in the part of Canada that were agitating for separation, in Montreal, in Quebec. And they had a way of managing all that agitation. They had a referendum. And then, but it hurt that country so badly because the economy of that province went into shambles. So I think we should dialogue. There is need to talk. People should watch what they say at this time, because a lot that were said then caused that civil war. And I said, no, I cannot sit and watch a second war. If there is any way I can contribute, which I've been doing as a private sector person since I retired from government, then this might be it. I'm calling on everybody, the old, the young. Please, do not call for war. War is the last option. It will not help anybody. And don't think that you can escape to any country, because you might not even live to be able to escape.
I can only imagine the trauma. I mean, if you've been through something before and you're seeing the signs again, I can only imagine the trauma that, you know, whatever it is you're seeing will be evoking. But before now, I mean, preceding the president's comments, which it would seem had sparked, outrage in different quarters for different reasons. Some have justified it. Some have said, no, we disagree with how the president, used his words. But, we cannot run away from the fact that there are secessionist agitations, especially in the southeast of the country. That is on the one hand. Before now, we have a constitutional amendment process also going on. For some people, they have said, no, this is not what we need. What we also want, what we need is a new constitution. And some people say that is room for dialogue. Do you think that that is sufficient room for dialogue? And do you think that the process, are you optimistic that through a constitutional amendment process, we could get what it is that we desire to make us stronger? Or do you think that, as you saw in Canada, perhaps a referendum will be the way to go?
This is a big one. Well, I think the ongoing process of constitutional amendment is the only way out. Everyone has to come to that table so that we can sort things out. All agitators must be invited so that you hear them out. I believe that we have the National Assembly that were duly elected or selected to speak on behalf of their constituents. There is absolutely no need for war. I wouldn't want to stay here if there's going to be another war, even if I have just 24 hours to leave. I'm pleading there should be no war. Most people who are agitating, where are they? Are they here? Are they willing to go to the war front? And speeches made, everybody is entitled to say what they want to say, be it the president, be it the agitators. There is freedom of speech. So if there is freedom of speech, and one speech is trying to get us into a civil war, then we should dialogue about that speech. And if there are ways of apologizing or, taking back a few harsh words, we do that.
All right, then, Mrs. Florence Ezenwa, the CEO of LELUC and the former director with the Ministry of Transport, we do thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Well, we'll go to break and then we'll return. Mr. Abiodun Uwanikoko, SAN, will join us and give his perspective when we come back in just a moment. Don't go away.